Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karunya Gana Ganatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramarjanado Jukta Sabhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satvanatriptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satvanatriptan Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Shiradikama Dabayara Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Madhurya Leela Pratikshana Danalalopasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Ne kunjayuno Ratikelisidai Jayali Bhiri Juktir Apekshaniya Tatrati Daksha Ativalabhasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे रुक्तास्तथाव व्यतैव साधवे किन्तु प्रवर्ज प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुराशि चरणरवृन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादं न गति कुतपि ध्यायां स्तुवां तस्य यशत्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुराशि चरणरवृन्दम् ध्यायां स्तुवां तस्य यशत्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुराशि चरणरवृन्दम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंद श्री जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hariyaraye Nama Krishna Jadavaye Nama Hariyaraye Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Jai Ram Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Jai Ram Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Aur Raghupati Raghava Shri Ram Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Jagana Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Pramanande Haribo Jai Vishnu Paraparamita Prabhaja Kacharya Suttara Sri Shrimari Divine Grace अभोचर बिना भक्ति विरांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विभूति संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगुरु स्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से हो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमन गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरनाय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुगत धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद निदंग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंज सम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजपुर वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। द लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय। श्री माय पूर्णवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मति राधा रानी की जय। श्री राम विजय उत्सव की जय। निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे। All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Hari Go. Namaste Narasi Gaya. Namaste Narasi Gaya. Pralada la da 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 ine. Pralada la da da ine. Hiranyakasipu Bhaksha. Silatanka nakala. Jaya Silatanka nakala. Ito nisinga parato nisinga. Ito nisinga parato nisinga. Jata jata jamita to nisinga. Jaya jata jata jamita to nisinga. Bahir nisinga, hrudaye nisinga. Bahir nisinga, hrudaye nisinga. Narasimha Madhimi Sharanam Prabhade. Narasimha Madhimi Sharanam Prabhade. Tabakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabutta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Kanabinga Kisabadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Vakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipo Kanabhinga Desavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Re Jai Jagadisa Re Jai Jagadisa Re Desavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Re Jai Jagadisa Re Jai Jagadisa Re Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Re Jai Jagadisa Jai Jagadisa Jaya Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jai Shri Bhakti Pada Sarvignash Nakari Shingari Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakta Shrista Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Premanande Hari Hari Bol Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Vadi Devai Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Sing your birthday. You prefer to do Hati? What do you prefer? You prefer to sing or to do Hati?
I'll do Hati.
Okay.
I'll sing. Namo Namaha. Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namaha.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Jai Abhilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilasi.
Jai Tumhara Saranaloy Tara Vancha Purana Hoy.
Jai Tumhara Sharanana Tara Vancha Purna.
Suji, Adi first. Udupati first. Jai Tumhara Saranaloy Tara Vancha Purana Hoy.
Tomara Sharanana Tara Vancha Purna.
Kripa Kore Koro Tare Vrindavana Vasi.
Tumi Kripa Kori Koro Tare Vrindavana Vasi.
Mora Ye Abhilas Vilas Kunje Diyovas.
Moraiya Vilas Kunja Diyava.
Nayane Ribosada Jugala Ruparasi.
Aminayane Divo Sada Jugala Ruparasi.
Ye Nivedanadaro Sakiranu Gata Koro.
Nivedanadhara
Sakiranu Gata Koro. Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi. Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi. Dina Krishna Dase Koi Ye Namora Hoy.
Dina Krishna Daseka Eyena Mora.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Ye Nabasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Navasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Ye Nabasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme
Sada Ye Nabasi. यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणपदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणपदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणपदे पदे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, 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 Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, 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 Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabataye Namo Namaha. Vindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabataye Namo Namaha. Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Oh, to receive beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Sri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a faraway cavity himself of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me ornament servant. As very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise, may I always sing aloud Shri Radha.
Large because it spreads the rays of benediction. It is light of all transcendental knowledge, increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are holy.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself the Lord on a stony street, one should be more tolerant than is due, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only when you cause the devotion for service of birth out of birth.
O Son Maharaj, I am an eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I fall into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me between the atoms of your lotus. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years ago. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world of your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain, so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything for his own. My worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Dasan Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Charani Visesha.
Yeah, I think offense is a matter of chanting the holy name, the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows.
To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating holy names, O Lord. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. To blaspheme the Vedic literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna's imagination. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. To commit simple activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruit of activities of karma kanda. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. To not have complete faith in chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be an attendant while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now, let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyebhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha vaishnava thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharani Nirvisesa Sunivani Paskati Satani. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmad Yasya Yato Nivayad Itaratas Charte Sovigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyantiyat Surayaha. Tejo Vari Madam Yata Vini Vayo Yatra Chisargo Mesha. Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
Oh my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality, Godhead,
Oh all-pervading personality,
I offer my respectful obeisance unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is
and the primeval cause of all causes,
the primeval cause of all causes,
of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
creation, sustenance, destruction, manifested.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He
manifestations,
is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond
He is
him.
independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
He is the only first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart
the original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
By him even the great sages and demigods
as one is bewildered by the illusory representations
is one bewildered by the illusory
of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
waters from the fire of lands,
Only because of him do the material universes,
only because of him do the material universe,
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of three modes,
appear factual, although they are unreal.
factual, although they
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
are therefore meditate upon Lord Shri
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material
which
world.
is forever free from the illusory representation.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him for he is the
Dharma projita kaitocha
Dharma Pujita Kaitava
paramo nimatsanam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu
Vedam Vastavamastu
shivedam tapatrayon muna
Shivadam Tapo
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite
Bhagavate
Kim Vapare Ishwaraha Satyo Hridi Avaruddha Tetra Krite Bihi Sususabhistakshana, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is a reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasdeva in his maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compatible with this
is sufficient in itself for God
is
realization.
sufficient self to God.
What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to read Vedic literature. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtanam Hidyantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunati Sahitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nastapresu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistake. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye chete taranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis, chidyante sarva samsaya, shriyante jashikarmani, drista evatmani sware. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection, and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samadram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food. Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual.
The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of
The
Vrindavan.
spiritual master is very dear because his expert in assisting the gopis who at different time make different tasteful arrangement for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
obeisance unto the lotus.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
This is acknowledged in all real scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual
At
master.
least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual.
Marma Smita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karana.
Chintamani Prakal Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa
Lakshavritesha Surabir Avipalyantam
Vitesi Suradhira Vipalaya.
Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambhrama Sevyamanam
Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Seva.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham.
Venum Kvananta Ravinda Dalaitaksham
Venum Vanantam Aravinda Dalaya.
Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam
Bhagavata Samasitam Buddha Sundaram.
Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobam
Sandapa Gauti Kamaniya.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham.
Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamaya Vamsi
Alola Chandra Kala Sadvanamaya.
Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam
Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam.
Shyamam Tribangala Hitanyata Prakasam
Shamam Trimangalaritam Yata.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham.
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti
Angani Yasya Sakalim.
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti
Pasyanti Banti Kalayanti Chiram.
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya
Ananda Chinmaya Sadhuja.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham.
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam
Tamachyutam Anadi Manam.
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manasomani Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopti Sora Chayatun Jagadanda Kotim Yatshakti Rasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktaryameva Nikama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Patibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabihi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhavane Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavad Paramaha Pumamyo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Pravato Jagananda Koti Kotisvasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniscalam Ashesha Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Taigrun Yatrad Visayveda Vitayamanam Satvava Purambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Yapraninam Pratifulam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Golokanamni Nijatamni Talechatasya Devi Mahesa Haridama Sute Sutesu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vitaschayena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shrististati Pralaya Sadhana Saktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ikchana Rupam Apiyasya Chitestatesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Siram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Heto Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Deepa Chareva Hita Santalam Abhyapedya Deepayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jaleva Jtisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagananda Nataha Vishnu Mahansa Hiryasya Kala Vishesho Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvadatra Brahmaya Esa Jagananda Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samayesu Ganadi Rajaha Vignam Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Maruti Sascha Kalasta Tatma Manasiddhi Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gyaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapamsi Brahma Dikita Patagava Deyascha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarvo Druma Bhumis Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Katad Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apibam Sipriya Saki Chidanandam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadyam Apicha Seyacha Shirabi Dehi Chabati Surabi Byas Jasumahan Nime Sardakyuva Rajati Nahiya Trapi Samaya Bhaje Sweta Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golakamitiyam Vedantaste Santakshiti Virachara Paye Sri Shupanishad Ki Jai Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Shivaishamidam Sarvam Jakinja Jagatyam Jagattena Taktena Bunjitaha Mahagritaha Krishisvitanam Kurvan Evaha Karmani Jadivicek Chatam Samaha Evam Tvayi Nanyatetustina Karma Lipite Nare Asuya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pritya Vigachanti Iti Chatma Hono Janaha Anajadika Manasoja Vyo Nena Devam Apravam Pravam Rasata Davato Nyane Teti Tastat Tasmina Pamata Visvatadati Tad ejati ta nejati tad dure tad vantike tad antarasya sarvasya tad sarvasya syabhayataha Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupasyati sarvabhute sachatmanam tato na vichakupsate Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha tatra ko mahakaha soka ekadvam anupasyataha Saprayagas chukamakayam avranam asnavinam sutam apabhavidam kavir manisi paribhu swayambhu yatatat yatorutam yadadat jasvatipyaha samabhyaha Anya Antam tamaha pravisanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuya vite tamo ya yuvidyayam rataha Anya devahur vidyaya anya dahur vidyaya iti sushrumadiranam yenastad vichichaksire Vidyam cha yas yastad vedo bayam saha avidyayam ritam tritva vidyayam ritamasnute Andam tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasyate tato bhuya vite tamo ya yu sambhutam rataha Anya devhur sambhavat anya dahur sambhavat iti sushrumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedabhayam saha vinasena miritam tidva sambhutam ritamasnate Hiranmayana patrina satyasya pitam mukam tatvam pusam apavrinu satyadharma yadristaye Pusaneka Seyamasriya Prajapadya Vyuha Rasmin Samahatejo Yate Rupam Kalyanatamam Tate Pasyami Yosavaso Purushaha Sohamasmi Vayurani Lamam Ritam Atedam Tas Basmantam Sarinam Om Kratos Smarakritam Smaro Kratos Smarakritam Smara Agnenaya Supatare Isman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yodajmas Chuhurana Mino Bhuhistam Tenama Uktim Videma Om Tatsat Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 27 again. There is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana when he was just on the lap of his mother, to overrun a cart with his leg to overturn a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old, to uproot a pair of Arjuna trees so high that they touched the sky when he was only crawling. All these activities are impossible for anyone other than the Supreme Lord himself. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing learning more about Krishna's unique qualities that differentiate him from all other living entities, from everyone else in the material world and in the spiritual world. So we're continuing in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 31. The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, Lord Brahma is the topmost devotee of the Lord within this universe, and therefore the personality of Godhead replied to his 4 principal inquiries in 4 important statements, which are known as the original Bhagavatam in 4 verses. These were Brahma's questions. What are the forms of the Lord, both in matter and in transcendence? How are the different energies of the Lord working? How does the Lord play with his different energies? How may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him? The prelude to the answers is this verse under discussion, wherein the Lord informs Brahma that knowledge of him, the Supreme Absolute Truth, as it is stated in the revealed scriptures, is very subtle and cannot be understood unless one is self-realized by the grace of the Lord. So this differentiates spiritual knowledge right away from mundane knowledge, because it's not something achieved by one's own effort. It's something granted one by the mercy of the Lord. But obviously, one has to deserve. So that's why Prabhupada says, first deserve, then desire. Most people, first they desire, and maybe they deserve it, and maybe they don't. But Prabhupada says, first deserve, then desire. So, how do we deserve something? You have to make some efforts to please the person who you want to get the mercy from. That's the ultimate person is Krishna, and he's the person who gives the best mercy, unparalleled. So, this knowledge is very subtle and cannot be understood unless one is self-realized by the grace of the Lord. The Lord says that Brahma may take the answers as he explains them. This means that transcendental knowledge of the Absolute Supreme Being can be known if it is made known by the Lord himself. So we got to hear directly from Krishna. That's why Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is, because when we read this Bhagavad Gita, we're hearing the original words of Krishna as he spoke them. therefore, this is a very special thing. There's no translation of Bhagavad Gita is like this. And therefore, when a person reads this with a little faith and also by engaging in devotional service, they come to the same conclusion as Arjuna. That means you actually read Bhagavad Gita. But if you read Bhagavad Gita and you don't come to the same conclusion as Arjuna, then you didn't really read it. Yeah, you might have mouthed the words, but you didn't understand what they meant. So, by the mental speculation of the greatest mundane thinkers, the absolute truth cannot be understood. So therefore, don't waste our time reading about Jean-Paul Sartre or Nietzsche or any of these, even Socrates. Don't even waste your time, because most of what they say is speculation. Socrates and Plato, they believed that the spiritual world is static. That's nonsense. It's not static. They believe that there are ideal forms, and everything we see in the material world is a perverted reflection of those ideal forms. But the ideal forms are static in the spiritual world. That is complete nonsense. They're just speculating. See? Although they're very good speculators, but it doesn't mean it's true. It's the truth. Huh?
They came pretty close, but
They didn't come close now. Nothing is static in the spiritual world. It's all dynamic.
they defined that it was a perverted reflection till they came.
Yes, yeah. And that's, if you ever want to read Socrates, you read the allegory of the cave. So he thought that every living entity is a prisoner in a cave with their back to the outside, and they're just facing a wall, and there's some demons up on a high platform behind them, and they're exhibiting forms, and they only see the shadow of those forms on the wall, and that's the only reality they know. So one of those guys escapes and actually goes past the demons, sneaks past the demons, and goes out of the cave into the sunlight. And later on, he sneaks back in again to tell everyone else about what he saw, and they don't believe him. Yeah. They say, no, this is the only reality. There's no such thing. You're talking nonsense. So this was his allegory of the cave. And all we see is the reflection of shadows in the darkness. But if you remember what we read 2 days ago, Prabhupada explains what that means, a shadow in the darkness, or a reflection of something in darkness. So what does it mean, actually? Well, he says that he says, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. So in the purport, he said, first of all, he said, misconceiving one thing for another thing is called illusion. For example, accepting a rope as a snake is an illusion. But the rope is not false. The rope as it exists in the front of the illusion person is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting this material manifestation as being divorced from the energy of the Lord is illusion, but it is not false. And this illusory conception is called reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. There it is right there. Anything that appears as apparently not being produced out of my energy is called Maya. The conception that the living entity is formless or that the Supreme Lord is formless is also illusion. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:12, it was said by the Lord in the midst of the battlefield that the warriors standing in front of Arjuna, Arjuna himself, and even the Lord, had all existed before they were existing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and they would all continue to be individual personalities in the future also. even after the annihilation of the present body and even after being liberated from the bondage of material existence. In all circumstances, the Lord and the living entities are individual personalities, and the personal features of both the Lord and the living beings are never abolished. Only the influence of the illusory energy, the reflection of light in the darkness, can, by the mercy of the Lord, be removed. In the material world, the light of the sun is also not independent, nor is that of the moon. The real source of light is the Brahma Jyoti, which diffuses light from the transcendental body of the Lord, and the same light is reflected in varieties of light. The light of the sun, the light of the moon, the light of fire, or the light of electricity. So the identity of the self as being unconnected with the Supreme Self, the Lord, is also illusion, and the false claim, I am the Supreme, is the last illusory snare of the same Maya, or the external energy. So this reflection of light in the darkness, that is, you see something, but you claim it to be something different than what it is. So that is, but what you see is not false. It's just that you interpret it in a false way, and that becomes an illusion, and that is called reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. So the darkness is ignorance, right? And the reflection, you see something, but then you misinterpret it, and you believe your misinterpretation is true. That is the reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. So mundane knowledge is the darkness of ignorance. And it's all full of speculation. Like, there's an article now, it just came out 2 days ago. It said, bingo, everything didn't start by the Big Bang. You want to look it up? Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're crazy. The creation did not start by the Big Bang. These people are nuts, absolutely nuts, you know. And then we're supposed to accept them as scientists? They're not scientists, they're bogus. You see something? What's it say?
The universe did not start with the Big Bang. There was actually a universe already existing before it, and the Big Bang was merely the end of that universe. So apparently the prior universe ended with a bang. So that's what this saying.
Yeah, well, which bang we talking about? The Big Bang, the little bang, no bang, bang wang. It's all nonsense. For years they've been saying everything starts with the Big Bang. It's since 1927. And now they're saying...
It actually came up in 2017.
What's that?
The Big Bang wasn't the beginning after all.
That's an article from 2017.
Yeah.
Did you hear about it? Well, you're hearing about it right now. Okay?
They should update the books. They're in the schools and they're still...
They don't care. It's not science. It's fiction. It's speculation. See? So, therefore, the knowledge of the personality Godhead may be attained by devotional service only. Rahasyam. Okay, when it says Rahasyam, that's from a verse, 4th chapter, 3rd verse of Bhagavad Gita. And it says, it's a very, very famous verse, Prabhupada has quoted it many times. Saevayam mayate dya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam hitad uttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. The transcendental mystery of this science, the word is rahasyam. So he uses this word. It wasn't in the verse that he quoted today. What was in that verse today was Paramaguyam, the supreme secret. But he refers to this also in 4th chapter, 3rd verse. Bhaktosi me sakacheti, because you're my bhakta and you're my friend, rahasyam hitad uttamam, I am, you will be able to understand this transcendental mystery of this science. The science is Krishna consciousness. Rahasyam, Prabhupada says, means devotional service. Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita because he found Arjuna to be a devotee and friend. Without such qualifications, one cannot enter into the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. What is the mystery? You don't understand it by academic study. You understand it by devotional service. It's a different system of knowledge. Therefore, one cannot understand the personality of Godhead unless one becomes a devotee and discharges devotional service. The mystery is love of Godhead. Therein lies the main qualification for knowing the mystery of the personality of Godhead. And to attain the stage of transcendental love of Godhead, regulative principles of devotional service must be followed. So there's another movement called the International Society for Love of God. Now that's, they imitated Prabhupada, but Prabhupada said International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and they said their movement is called the International Society for Love of God. And they say, their guru, the original guru was this Kripalu Maharaj, but he has there's a sub-guru of his, a disciple of his, who's a big rascal, a criminal actually, who was Keshava, I think his name was Keshava Maharaj. He molested some woman and then he ran away from the United States. He's hiding in India now. But his movement, the movement he started, which is an offshoot of Kripalu Maharaj, is still going on in Texas. They have a big ashram. And this guy, this crazy guy, Keshava, he says, the goal is Raga Nuga Bhakti. So I will give that to you right away. But what does Prabhupada say here? It says that, he says, therein lies the main qualification for knowing the mystery of the personality of Godhead, and to attain the stage of transcendental love of Godhead, regulative principles of devotional service must be followed. The regulative principles are called Vidhi Bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, and they can be practiced by a neophyte with his present senses. Such regulative principles are mainly based on hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, and such hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord can be made possible in the association of devotees only. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended 5 main principles for attaining perfection in the devotional service of the Lord. So here he's saying, there's sadhana bhakti and raganuga bhakti. So sadhana bhakti is following all the rules and regulations, Krishna consciousness, under the tutelage or under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master and spiritual masters. And then when the spiritual master thinks that you have progressed sufficiently, and it takes a long time, then he will teach you Raganuga Bhakti and introduce you to gopis who can train you in your particular attraction to Krishna. So this clown is saying, oh, no, Raganuga is the goal. I'll give it to you right away. You don't have to go through this Vidhi Bhakti or this sadhana Bhakti. I can give it to you right away. You see how this everything starts in India. The cheating, the lying, it starts in India and it spreads all over the world. So now, Lord Chaitanya recommended 5 main principles for attaining perfection in the devotional service of the Lord. This has nothing to do with academic knowledge. What's number 1? Number 1 is associating with devotees. Why? Because in the association of devotees, you hear about Krishna. And then number 2 is chanting the glories of the Lord. So chant Hare Krishna, recite Brahma Samhita and other choice prayers glorifying the Lord, but basically chant Hare Krishna. That's what's recommended by Lord Chaitanya. And then number 3 is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the pure devotee. Well, that's what we're doing, right? Every day we're reading Prabhupada's purports, we're hearing Prabhupada's explanation, and hearing Krishna's explanation and Prabhupada's further explanation in his purports. So we're hearing from pure devotees. And number 4, residing in a holy place. Well, the temple is considered a holy place because everything in the temple is focused on pleasing Krishna. Or holy places like Vrindavan and Mathura and other places like that in India where Krishna had his pastimes. And then number 5 is worshiping the deity of the Lord. So this is what Lord Chaitanya, he recommended these 5 things. If you do these 5 things, then he's guaranteeing that you'll go back to Godhead. Such rules and regulations are parts of devotional service. So, as requested by Lord Brahma, the personality Godhead will explain all about the 4 questions put forward by Brahma and others also, which are parts and parcels of the same questions. Okay. So now, we go to the next verse, which is 2nd Canto, 9th chapter, 32nd verse. So these are the 4, there's 31, 32, 33, 34. These are the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Krishna says, all of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. This is real knowledge. This is the way to attain knowledge. We should serve the Lord under the guidance of bona fide spiritual masters and please the Lord by our service. And when he's pleased, he will bless us with knowledge. Tesam satati yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayamti te, 10th chapter, 10th verse, which says, those who worship me with love and devotion, always thinking of me, never wavering. What happens? I give them the knowledge by which they come to me. 10th chapter, 10th verse, and it says exactly, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this is transcendental education. Right. So Prabhupada writes, the secret of success in understanding the intricacies of knowledge of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is the causeless mercy of the Lord. So, we have to earn the causeless mercy of the Lord. And sadhana bhakti, under the tutelage of bona fide guru, is the beginning of that transcendental process. Right? Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet son. The father discloses the confidence unto the son whom he thinks worthy. An important man in the social order can be known by his mercy only. Similarly, one must be very dear to the Lord in order to know the Lord. The Lord is unlimited. No one can know him completely, but one's advancement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can make one eligible to know the Lord. Here we can see that the Lord is sufficiently pleased with Brahmaji, and therefore he offers his causeless mercy to him so that Brahmaji may have the factual realization of the Lord by his mercy only. Now, Brahmaji had to meditate for hundreds and thousands of years to get the mercy of the Lord. But see, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, even in one lifetime, we can do that. Right? And what is our tapasya? So there is sacrifice, there's charity, and there's tapasya, right? All meant for pleasing the Lord. So we have to sacrifice our time, our energy, even our careers sometimes, and by chanting Hare Krishna and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and going on Sankirtan, all those things are sacrifices. And then there's charity, so we have to, give whatever we earn beyond our minimal needs to spread Krishna consciousness. And then number 3, tapasya. So what is our tapasya? Chanting, dancing, feasting, and hearing, and preaching. That's our tapasya. So it's actually pleasant. It's not like Brahma. He had meditated in the darkness before the creation for thousands and thousands of years. Right? But today, Lord Chaitanya has made that tapasya actually very enjoyable. Right? Of course, it's not enjoyable for a sense gratifier. He thinks, oh, I'm wasting my time. I could be making money on the stock market, or I could, buy this in the Value Village and sell it 2 times more on the internet. Their mind is agitated to have sense gratification and make money for sense gratification. But when one becomes peaceful, they're not disturbed anymore by all these so-called plans to make money and be successful, and they can focus their mind on Krishna. But then Krishna supplies everything for the devotee. And that's said also in this 10th chapter, 10th verse. He says, in the 11th verse, Te samaham, where it says, Te sam ivanukam partamaham agyanamam tama nasayami bhavasto gyanadipena basvato. It says, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Okay, again, ignorance is darkness. And in the purport, he says, the ultimate goal, Vishnu, can be attained only by this chant and by devotional service, and not by mental speculation or argument. The pure devotee does not have to worry about the material necessities of life. He need not be anxious, because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord, who is pleased by the loving devotional service of the Lord, of the devotee. This is the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. By studying Bhagavad Gita, one can become a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord and engage himself in pure devotional service. As the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all kinds of materialistic endeavors. So the pure devotee does not have to worry about the material necessities of life. He need not be anxious, because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord. Wow, that's a big statement. Right? Everything is provided automatically by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So, therefore it says now, in the Vedas also it is said that a person cannot know the absolute truth, personality of God. It's simply by dint of mundane education or intellectual gymnastics. Well, this is 10th chapter, 4th and 5th verse, where it says, Buddhir Gyanam Asamoha. One second. Yeah. 10th chapter, 4th and 5th verse. Buddhir Gyanam Asamoha Samasatyam Dhamasama. Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo Abhayam cha abhayam eva cha. Ahimsa samatatu stis tapodanam yaso yashaha. Bhavanti bhava bhutanam mata eva pratak vida. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the different qualities of living entities, be they good or bad, are all created by Krishna, and they are described here. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. In schools, they only try and teach what is matter, but even matter they don't understand. We can see even the biggest scientists, they don't really understand what matter is. They're still trying to figure out what it is. That's another article. I'll show you where that is later on. They're not sure about the definition of matter. You know. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Ordinary knowledge obtained by a university education pertains only to matter, and it is not accepted here as knowledge. There you go. Knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and matter. In modern education, there's no knowledge about spirit. There's simply taking care of the material elements and bodily needs. Therefore, academic knowledge is not complete. Okay. And also, in the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, which is 10th chapter also, 10th chapter, verse 40. No, I'm sorry. 11th chapter, verse 54. It says, Bhaktya Tvananyaya Sakya Ham Evam Vidurarjuna Gyatam Drastum Chitatvena Pravestum Cha Parantava. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Again, see, it's mysteries. This is a mystery for materialistic people. They can't understand Krishna. They say, this is all mythology. This is all exaggeration. This is like Disneyland. It's not science. But this is the highest science. But it's not understood by people who are still engaged in sense gratification. So, in the purport, it gives many proofs that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Many, many proofs. And I'm not going to go over all of that right now because I will tomorrow, because it is very, let's say, detailed. So, anyway, in the Vedanta Sutra, 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, 26th verse, it says, Prakasascha karmani abhyasat. It says that simply by performing devotional service, you can develop all knowledge. You don't need academic study or academic knowledge. Simply by engaging in devotional service, you can attain all knowledge. So, where is that said? What's said in the Vedanta Sutra, but it's also in the Bhagavad Gita quoted, where it says, one second, let me see where it says that. Okay, so it is. Yeah, this is 9th chapter. 9th chapter, verse number 2. But it's later on in the purport, near the end of that purport, it says, in the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, this is also described in the following words, Prakasas Chakarmani Abhyasat. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who in that life happened to be the son of a maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born into a high family, but when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged, and sometimes, in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, he describes his previous life to his disciple Vyasadeva. He says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees during the 4 months of their stay, he was intimately associating with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy who would wash their dishes wanted to taste remnants. So he asked the great devotees for their permission. And when they gave it, Narada ate those remnants and consequently became freed from all sinful reactions. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting, and Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada further says, by associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in Vedanta Sutra, Prakasas Chakarmanya Abhyasat, if one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically, and he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, direct perception. What a purport. Right? So then, it says, in the Vedas also it is said that a person cannot know the absolute truth, personality of God, simply by dint of mundane education or intellectual gymnastics. One can know the Supreme Lord if one has unflinching faith in the bona fide spiritual master as well as in the Lord. Such a faithful person, even though illiterate in the mundane sense, can know the Lord automatically by the mercy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is said that the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone, and he keeps himself concealed from the faithless by his yoga maya potency. So what is that verse? That is, Naham prakasasarvasya yoga maya samanvritaha mudoyam nabijananti lokomamajam avyayam, 7th chapter, 25th verse. You see how Prabhupada, when you start analyzing, all the references he makes, he doesn't give the reference. You have to know it. So it's a great exercise to learn the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the 7th chapter, 25th verse. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So you have we all have two major obstacles. One, we are covered by the material energy. And if we're engaged in sense gratification, there's no way we can see Krishna because he's protected by his Brahma Jyoti effulgence that covers him. Or it's basically covering us also. So not only do we have to become free from the material illusions of this material world, but we also have to be completely surrendered to the Lord with love and devotion, and then he removes this curtain of light so that we can see him. And that's also in Ishopanishad, where it says, Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pyutam mukam tattvam pusam apavrina satya dharmaya dristaye. My dear Lord, your smiling face is covered by this curtain of light called the Pramajyoti. Please remove this curtain of light so that I can see your smiling face. So you have Bhagavad Gita 7:25, and you have Ishopanishad mantra 15. Both are saying the same thing, that the Lord basically has the right not to reveal himself to unworthy people. Okay. So now next, it says, the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone, and he keeps himself concealed from the faithless by his yogamaya potency. To the faithful, the Lord reveals himself in his form, quality, and pastimes. The Lord is not formless, as wrongly conceived by the impersonalists, but his form is not like one that we have experienced. The Lord discloses his form even to the extent of measurement to his pure devotees, and that is the meaning of Yavan, as explained by Srila Jiva Goswami, the greatest scholar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, now there's some very important information here. It says that even the most least educated person or illiterate people, in a mundane sense, can know Krishna automatically by the mercy of the Lord. That means that no one is prohibited from being a pure devotee. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is said that the Lord reserves the right. Okay. To the faithful, the Lord reveals himself in his form, quality, and pastimes. The Lord is not formless, as wrongly conceived by the impersonalists, but his form is not like one that we have experienced. The Lord discloses his form even to the extent of measurement. Well, yeah, his form is described as being like the size of a sun, and other times it's described as being like, almost 9 inches as Paramatma in the heart. And then there's also the description with actually specific measurements of different parts of the body of the Lord in the Nectar Devotion. So he says here that the Lord discloses his form even to the extent of measurement to his pure devotees. And that is the meaning of Yavan, as explained by Srila Jiva Goswami, the greatest scholar of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Yavan means like measurement. Okay. The Lord discloses the transcendental nature of his existence. The mundane wranglers make mundane conceptions of the form of the Lord. It is said in the revealed scriptures that the Lord has no mundane form. Therefore, persons with a poor fund of knowledge conclude that he must be formless. They cannot distinguish between the mundane form and the spiritual form. According to them, without a mundane form, one must be formless. This conclusion is also mundane because formlessness is the opposite conception of form. Negation of the mundane conception does not establish a transcendental fact. See, that's an important point. Negation of the mundane conception does not establish a transcendental fact. So, the conclusion is also mundane, that is that when the Lord says he's formless, it means he doesn't have a material body. So the Mayavadis, they say, well, if he doesn't have a material body, that means he doesn't have a form. They can't imagine that there's such thing as a spiritual body, because they say, they say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The Brahman is the truth. The Brahman is referring to the light that apparently appears formless. So, therefore, if the Lord doesn't have a material form, then he's formless also. That's their false reasoning. According to them, without a mundane form, one must be formless. This conclusion is also mundane because formlessness is the opposite conception of form. So when it says the Lord doesn't have a material form, that does not preclude the fact that his form is spiritual. Negation of the mundane conception does not establish a transcendental fact. So, if something is mundane and you negate it, that doesn't mean you end up with something transcendental. You can't, if you negate something mundane or material, it doesn't mean what you end up with is spiritual. Because spiritual is transcendental to the mundane conception. So simply negating a mundane conception doesn't give you something spiritual. That's basically what it's saying. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord has a transcendental form and that he can utilize any one of his senses for any purpose. For example, he can eat with his eyes and he can see with his leg. In the mundane conception of form, one cannot eat with one's eyes nor see with his leg. That is the difference between the mundane body and the spiritual body of Satchitananda. A spiritual body is not formless. It is a different type of body of which we cannot conceive with our present mundane senses. Formless, therefore, means devoid of mundane form or possessing a spiritual body of which the non-devotee can have no conception by the speculative method. Haribol. So we'll stop right there. So every day we're learning a little bit more. So the difference between a spiritual body and a material body, the senses can only perform one function. The eye can only see, the ear can only hear. In the spiritual body, any part of the body can perform any of the senses functions. You can see with the leg, you can eat with the ear, for example.
Is this applicable for the soul as well in the spiritual world?
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who has a spiritual body, they have that power. I think that's what it's saying here. He says, that is the difference between the mundane body and the spiritual body of Satchitananda. A spiritual body is not formless. It is a different type of body of which we cannot conceive with our present mundane senses. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll continue again tomorrow. This is, every day it's pushing we're getting more and more information about the uniqueness of Krishna. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Mate Janara Prasade Bhai He Baba Tori Ajai Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Goriya Kya Aranakoriya Maneya sa Arana Koriya Maneya sa Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati E prasade pure sarva asa Arana Koriyama Ye prasade pure sarva sa Chakshudana Dila Jaya Janmi Janmi Prabhu se Divya Gyani de Prokasito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vina Sajate Vedikaya Janaracharito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokanath Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Padachaya Ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Padachaya Ebeas Sikchi Bhuvana Ebeas Sikchi Bhuvana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namo Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vaskatya Desatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanande ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararaj Shastra Satrashi Shishimana's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Shri Rangas, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain to pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection, fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan, Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari